Welcome back to the John Trading channel. You can see that Bitcoin basically last night went up nearly 10% in just one day. Plus Ethereum was using this 20 EMA as a rejection to the downside. We've now broken to the upside and we're now using it as support for leverage to the long side. Plus, I have some crypto news to go through with you today, so make sure you're watching until the end of the video. If you haven't already, leave a like on the video, make sure you're subscribed for future videos, and leave a comment if you're enjoying these trading videos. I want to first begin by looking at Bitcoin here on the weekly time frame. In the last few days, we've actually been going over Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and Ethereum looks slightly different to Bitcoin because we do have some bars actually closing down here in this area before then continuing again to the upside. But when we actually look at Bitcoin now, you can see that we basically never close below this 20 EMA. This day right here was basically a close right on the 20 exponential moving average. We did have a little bit of a downtick in this area, but we never closed below. Then in this area, when we opened in this area, came down, had a bit of a rejection, actually tested this area. Again, this area through here was a resistance level. Once it got broken through to the upside, it's then going to act as a support level. And that's why I was looking for this confluence level in the market, not only at the 20 EMA level, but also a confluence zone using these support to resistance flips in the market. Now, just basically overnight, we did have this major move to the upside, and we are continuing to use, as I said, back here, this EMA as a springboard to the upside. Now that we have a positive sloping EMA, it means that I can only be looking for trades to the long side because I want to be trading in the direction of the trend. So if I was to go down to a 30-minute time frame or even a 5-minute time frame, then I would still need to be trading in the direction of the trend. If the weekly trend is upwards, it means it's basically just easier to make money trading with the trend rather than trying to pick the top and trade it all the way to the bottom. It's like, no, all that we're doing on these longer term time frames is having these actual pushes down back into these value areas so people in long-term value can get back into the price before then continuing with a high probability of in the direction of the slope of the EMA. So having that positive slope now on the weekly time frame, when we then compare it to the weekly slope back in this area for Bitcoin, you can see we only basically had one tiny break of this 20 EMA. All through this area, we were using it as rejections to the downside. Sometimes we never even came back for the average price, but that's why we have the short-term average price and the medium-term average price. In between this is known as the value zone, and every time price came into these areas, people were selling and looking for shorts to the downside. And now we're doing the exact opposite thing. Through this area, we began having this positively sloping exponential moving average. We then broke above, and since we had this positive slope, we use this then as a springboard to the upside. And you can see what's happened in this area. Not exactly the same, but very similar. We had really strong pushes to the upside, and all we're doing now is just coming back, retesting the average price before we now continue to the upside. If we come over and actually have a look at Ethereum on the daily chart, as I've been talking about, all through this area was a really strong resistance. Every time we tried to break to the upside in this area, failure, 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 and failure. Even this area right here was a failure because we initially got this downtick. It was only in this area through here. So just this area through here that we got the break up, because we got that break above this level. This level was initially acting as a resistance level. Once it got broken through in this area here, it's now acting as a support level. So all through this area, you can see what price is actually doing. All we've actually done is came back to basically test the average price that was just a couple of weeks ago. And especially when we flick over to the weekly, exactly like the Bitcoin chart, all we've done is basically come back to retest the average price on a longer term time frame. And the reason I know that this price is an average price is because it took a long time all through these days. So from this top here all the way to this break over here was a 60-day movement where we were just slightly moving up and slightly moving down between a 60-day band. So quite a long time, meaning that price will eventually average at that level once we've got 60 days basically trading at the same price. Since there's more numbers at that same level, high likelihood that the average is going to converge to a number close to that 1650 level. And it was somewhere around that 1700, maybe 1725 was the actual 20 EMA. So easy to actually figure out where the actual average price is, and that was truly the average price on Ethereum. So all we've done is come to retest that area. I potentially am still expecting a little bit of downside movement. The reason being is, look, so we are in that sideways channel. And when you think about a sideways channel, my goal of a sideways channel is to be buying in the bottom 25% of the channel. Right here, there's 25% of this entire channel through here. And when I'm looking to sell, I'm looking to sell in this top 25% of the channel. Anytime in here, I would be looking for a sell. And anytime we're in this middle part of the area, I wouldn't be trading, or I'd be holding my trade to come into these areas before I either exit or enter into a new trade. Sometimes I exit. What I'm doing is I'm buying down here. I'm getting out down here, and then I'm entering a new position, bouncing it down. I'm getting out down here, buying into a new position, bouncing it up to the upside. So sometimes I'm not even just exiting out of my trades, I'm getting into trades and also using them as exit points, depending on where we are in the market. So as you can see, we are in this top 25% of this downward sloping channel, and high probability of these channels are to break to the upside. But since we are at the top end of this channel, what I really would be waiting for is a really strong break above to come into this area, potentially come back down, use it then as a support level. Initially, this was all a resistance level, then acts as a support level before we then get the move that we're truly looking for. As much as we've had a couple of days of really strong movement, what we are truly looking for is those continuous days of 5 and 10% back to back to back. And that's how we're going to get those multiple 10x's in the market. So as I've been speaking about, even with Binance Coin, all through this area was used as a time to get into the average price and follow the trend to the downside. As I've been talking about in the last few days of these videos, I've been talking about looking for a trade in this area on Binance Coin. So as much as we are having a lot of bullish momentum, you can even see here on Litecoin, we're up over 5% today. As much as we are seeing a lot of bullish momentum, we are coming back to the average price. And after a drop from top to bottom of basically 30%, it still leaves a decently likelihood that we could come back into this average price and then continue back to the downside. Now, even coming over and having a quick look at Litecoin, you can see that Litecoin has had this massive move today, 5%, and basically nearly 5% the day before. So we've had back-to-back 5%ers. But you can see that this chart does not look like Binance Coin, and that's why I actually want to compare this chart to the chart that we were just looking at before. Before in that area, we had bounces up in this area before we had major moves to the downside. When we actually look at Litecoin, you can see that we're more in this trading range area where people are potentially buying low in these areas and also selling high in these areas. So when we do see that, as much as we did have this downward sloping exponential moving average, this wouldn't be as high probability to then continue to the downside. It would still be a decent probability because we could get that double bottom type of pattern. But the reason it just wasn't as high probability to at least continue back to the downside and actually follow the trend is because of this previous price action. When we actually compare it to Binance Coin, you can see in this area, we were in that trade in a slight trading range pattern, but we got a massive breakout to the downside, and it just looks like a completely different chart to Litecoin. So this all comes into your analysis when you're actually looking and trying to take a trade. You need to be looking to the left and actually seeing what's happening in the market. You can even see down in this price here, again acting as support, and then we're just beginning to support higher. Definitely there was a probability to come down and even sweep into these shorts from here, but the chart just does not look as bearish as Binance Coin, and you can see why potentially one trade would work better than another trade. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that subscribe button, plus leave a comment if you're enjoying these daily crypto videos, and don't forget to leave a like. I'll see you in tomorrow's video.